I think some people just joined us. I'm going to have to. Oh, no, it's just you guys. Y'all just joined us. Let me lock this meeting, though, so that nobody accidentally joins us.
It happens to us all the time. It's so cute.
Yeah, it does.
It's all Lee's fault because he forgets to lock the room. On his side, it's on his side of the desk.
That's hilarious.
I copied the streaming link and I'm just going to give it to her that way.
Okay, perfect. And then if you guys want to share camera whenever you're ready, we can roll.
Okay. Hold on one quick second. Just one.
Get this link so I can get it out to the masses.
All right. And then let me get your bio up. People don't know. They're like, they're expecting a fully polished program and they get all this behind the scenes when we go live. It's hilarious. But I love that behind the scenes. Like when I turn into something early, I want behind the scenes. Show me you're a human.
Right. It's awesome.
So for
behind the scenes, try to get me to do something without Lee present.
You two are adorable.
Oh, okay. You got us now? Can you see us?
I should be able to. Let me pop over here. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we changed things around.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think we can center this up a little bit first.
Make today count. You got what? You got this. I love it. We got the big hearts. Sherry, your hair is looking flossy. So fly. Makeup is looking flawless.
Right? I have a cosmetologist daughter.
She did a bang up job. You look
she's bored.
Really flossy. She said she's bored. It's perfect. Nah, you look fantastic. Let me stop talking so people can see you. Say something, Sherry.
Here we are. We're live.
Are we live? Yeah, we're live.
I had no idea. Hello, everybody.
Yes. Wait, Lee, is that one of the sweatshirts that you made? Let's see what's going on there.
He ordered that one, yeah. Isn't that cool?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, you don't know your own depth until you stare at it.
Is that what that sweatshirt means?
Oh, that was just a subliminal message. Okay.
Oh man.
I'm in high channel mode, so I'm apologizing early.
That's hilarious to me. It's perfect. All right. So for those of you just joining, 1000% welcome. It's such a pleasure and an honor to have you here. You are live with me, K Moon, Twin Flame Channel, and let me turn myself down. You're here with me, K Moon, and Lee and Sherry of Relationship Reinvented. They are extraordinary coaches, twin flames in union, and guides on the path to love that has no conditions and connection that has no separation. Lee and Sherry are a single consciousness being that has always lived. Well, how do they put it? They say that consciousness has always lived within you and connects you to everything. It is the stillness and the silence between every thought and consciousness, which is beyond thoughts. It's not about taking on the beliefs of someone else, but rather shedding any and all beliefs that were never ours to begin with. These two twin flames in union, Lee and Sherry, are connecting with you through their deep soul connection. I'll never forget the day I sat with them privately in a coaching session, because I've privately worked with them and I can personally vouch for the difference their coaching has made in my connection with my twin and in my own family with my mother and my father. I sat there and I looked at them through the camera and they said, when you really come to understand connection, when you look at us, you would see that there's just one of us here. There's just one being here breathing, one spirit, one soul. They will work with you to show you the connection you have with yourself in ways that you never knew was possible to see and to experience through all of your senses. And via that deep connection with yourself, they will make it so that you are undefended, unguarded, and connected to the rest of the world, including your twin. Via answering the call to consciousness, they recognize that this is not about taking on the beliefs of even them or another spiritual guru, group, or individual. They believe that answering the call to consciousness is about bringing ourselves to an awareness that we have choices. This is about being a human being. Our soul intelligence honors our thoughts and our beliefs, knowing that in removing limitations and sufferings, we have the space to give and receive love unconditionally. Lee and Sherry, I want to thank you so much for being here. The live chat is already filled with people who are excited to hear your story, and I'm excited to interview you. Thank you once again.
Oh,
Thanks for
absolutely.
having
Thank you for
us.
having us.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Fabulous. So, we started in the Twins in Union panel one that we did the other day. I thank you so much for being champions of that panel. It wouldn't have come together without your support and assistance. That Twins in Union panel was the beginning of your story, and I would love it if you, I've set aside about 20 minutes of this conversation so you can kind of give us some of the deep dive. Now, for those of you that don't know, there's even parts of this that are about to be left out. But if you check out Lee and Sherry Twin Flames on YouTube, you will see their playlist called Our Journey that tells the intimate details of their story. But they're about to give us the abbreviated version of how they met, the signs of recognition that they had, the separation, the coming back together, the separation again, the coming back together, how they thought it was it, and then they separated again, only to come into this final union. You guys take it away. Tell us the story. We've got until about 8:30 Eastern. If you could tell us the story of you guys' union.
I'll start, and then because if I don't, then I'm not going to get a word in at the end of this because Lee's going to take it. I love it when he does that, but it's the truth. Yeah, so just like K-Moon said, we all of our journey, even the parts that we're going to leave out here, and it's going to have to be a lot that we leave out because there's an awful lot, is on our journey in our playlist in YouTube. But we did meet online. And I was single at the time and just doing single things, working, dating, going out, hanging with some friends, living that type of lifestyle. I just come off of a 2-year away, just me, myself, and I, and had to think about my entire life. And so I had come out awakened. And then 3D life started to get in the way a little bit. Dating multiple people, and then didn't know where my life was going, but trying to find and keep my peace. And I come across his profile. We did some winking. We linked up. I started.
Oh. I wish I sounded as good as you did in the beginning. I was literally in my head. That's the thing about when we came together. When I look at it, it's almost like I'm talking about someone else. Because when you run into this connection, you forget who you are when you're with them. But then when you go back to your normal life, you don't. So what ended up happening is, of course, at that point, I was seeing everybody, but I shouldn't have been. I didn't know what the word monogamy was without pain or hurt. So I just didn't trust it. Didn't know how to look at it like that then. But as I look at it now, it was just something that I thought everybody was doing. I think, that first meet with her, I started to understand something about myself that I didn't quite see at that time. And the more times we saw each other in the very beginning, the more beautiful it became, the worse I got. Because, you're in there telling yourself you don't deserve something like this. You're in there telling yourself your life's a mess. They won't fit in. A lot of that, when that was happening, I think, There was a lot of things where once we were inside with one another, everything else just disappeared.
Neither
And
one
it
of
was,
us were really looking for a
no,
relationship. Well, the further we get, we got to make it brief because we only got 20 minutes.
true.
But and I'll keep him in mind. Um, you know, he clearly, and you'll figure this out, but clearly wasn't looking for anything serious or long term.
Mhm.
And kind of neither was I at this point in time. I just was looking to meet new people and kind of see where it went. And we did make a date to meet. To me, it was a regular date, meet, have a drink or two, and be done. Right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen that way.
No.
I pulled into the establishment where we were to meet, and my eyes saw him, and that was it. Something clicked in me. Something was different. I don't know what happened to me, but the shakes and the butterflies and all this activation was happening. And I thought, well, this is just schoolgirl jitters. You know what I mean? I'll whatever this is. Okay. I'm in my 30s. Why is this happening? So, yeah. So it was interesting. We talked, and I looked in his eyes, and he looked in my mind, or in my
In your
mind,
eyes.
into my mind. It was scary.
I
It was
think
very scary.
what was interesting for me is the first time our eyes kind of had that locking moment when we were being present with one another. There was something that I was seeing in her eyes that just mesmerized me. It was almost like there was this body sensation, then like an unlocking of something, but I didn't understand that at the time. And it scared me because I knew something was completely different, and I didn't know if it was something wrong with me, because that's literally what you start to think about yourself, is something is wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start kind of going through, okay, no, this is just what this is. And every time I would walk into the energy, that part kept getting left out.
Yeah.
And it almost was like I was allowing her access to me without even knowing what that meant. And I think, when you start getting in your head about things, you start repeating certain things that you've always done. So when I wasn't with her, I was easily just out there doing the same things I was doing before. But every time I was looking forward to seeing her, or when I actually saw her, everything was just let go of. It was like really, like I just didn't have the same thought patterns or process. I was just in what I felt.
Mm.
And I think, when we kept getting closer and closer, that being in what I felt, it kept making a lot of things happen, whether it was kissing, whether it was, just feeling all of that energy that was just to be touching each other and be around each other, was just stirring about. And you don't go in your head about it. That doesn't happen until much later on. We'll get to that. But it was just free. And now I had this somewhere on this planet, and I went, oh, I don't want anything to come and interfere with this, but at the same time, I don't deserve it. And at some point that collides, and you end up doing exactly what you always do: run.
We all have in us, well, at least I know I did, and I know that I've talked to some other feminine energies that have. I don't know about the masculine. I maybe will ask you about that later on. But as a child, I always referred to it as a box, my box, and it was full of this hopes and dreams and visions and things. And I've always had this big love inside of me, this big love, and I that's all I called it, was big love. And I would tell it to my friends, and one day I'm going to have this big love and somebody who will love me no matter what. And I can flick them in the face and they will still love me. At 7, that's a big deal. Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
I could tell him he's got cooties and he's still going to love me. And all these things, and I'm going to love that person and they're going to love me, and it's big.
Mm.
And then you get all these stories of, that's a fairy tale. That's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And then you meet people, and in your soul they're not the big love, but you know that they're love.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've met people, and I've been married. I've had relationships, but I knew it wasn't. And there was one that I wasn't sure of. I was like, is this the big love? Whoa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found out later that it was a soulmate type of relationship, it was beautiful. But this big love was there. When I met him, I saw it. like it's hard to explain, but I saw the possibility of the big love.
Mm.
So there it is. Now I see the possibility of the big love, but it's way up there on the peak of this mountain. How do I get up there to get the big love?
Mm.
Oh, is it a climb?
And she's talking about rock climbing without a rope, without any safety gear at all. That's what this connection is like. You described it perfectly. It's like you're going to the top of this mountain and you have no gear on, but you don't know.
It is.
Right.
I knew you were real.
If we fall off of this, we're dead. Right? It's like that's how it feels. And you literally, everything you start to do when you get that way is absolutely insane, because you feel like, I take this wrong step, I could fall and then I'll be dead, because you're trying to get to that place where you meet.
And it just is. Oh
yeah.
So tell us about some of the signs and synchronicities as the two of you started to get closer and take us back to
how far back do you want us to go? I mean, you have to talk about, does that mean I sit and tell you about the time I sat next to a girl named Sherry in class, and she was always kind of just tapping me with her pen, and kind of, I was like, you know, at 4 or 5 years old or 4th grade or whatever, there's always been a Sherry. And she was always in here. So anything that attracted the energy we're in now, you do keep seeing in your life. You just don't know how to make it choose you, because you're not choosing. So
he's right about that. There's always been a lead from the very beginning.
Her first crush.
Oh, my first big crush. We was on vacation, a family vacation. His name was Lee. Oh, I was 15. It was enamored. Took pictures, came home, blew up a poster-sized picture of me and him. It was me and Lee. We were forever. Sherry and Lee forever, all over my walls as a teenager.
Where do you want us to begin with that?
Yeah.
Because it's vast.
I mean, we could go into license plates and signs and
1111.
Numbers
1 2 3. 1 2 3 4. 3 2 1.
Oh,
4 3 2. I mean, all of these sequences and numbers and everything.
It was overwhelming. It was overwhelming to the point where, like, okay. But keep in mind too, and I'm really watching the clock, because this can get it. We can stay on subject for a very long time. We want to get you there. So when we first met, the goal wasn't to have a relationship. We were both single. I wasn't looking for something. I needed to do me for a while. But that changed.
When did it change for you, and how did you know, Sherry?
Well, this was a sick little twisted game my mind played with me. And it's just real. It's the truth. When I was able to look in him and see the darkness inside of him, it scared me to the point where I knew that I didn't ever want to have a relationship with him, because if I could see him in him, he could see in me, and there was some stuff in there that I didn't want him to see. So then it became, okay, I need to turn off this butterfly shakiness, because really now all I want to do is get down to a 3D act of conquering this and sending him on his way. Yeah, I want to know what this feels like. And then you can go. And it came to the point where we were making dates, and he would come over and we would make out intensely, so intensely, but there was never any next steps. The kissing was so intense, we would lose hours just kissing and not touching, just kissing. And the makeout sessions were so intense, but it just never went to the next level, which activated a 3D thing in me to, okay, he's gay, he is married, he's HIV positive. There's so many things that could be possible why he's not sleeping with me. And it became something else to me, almost like okay, I've got to find out why, and I've got to conquer this, and then he can go. I need to see if I can do this. And I did, and it was bad. I couldn't get him out of the house fast enough, and he couldn't leave fast enough.
So you see, the chasing was kind of a chase to push the run, which is what everybody gets stuck in. And I think
So what was going on for you though at that time, Lee? Like, could give us a fly on the wall. What were the things that you both knew consciously about your connection with Sherry at that time? And what were the things that you were not sharing or not showing? What were the things that were still being held separate inside of you in terms of what was going on in your life, the people in your life, etc.?
the time spent with Cherry making out and kissing and not going any further was the most conscious thing that had happened to me up to this point. Everything else was unconscious. The people I was seeing, the marriage I was in, the things I was doing was all from stuff I inherited, stuff that I didn't even know that I was really conscious repeating. See, sometimes we get knocked out of connection to understand where our disconnects are. And this was calling me home. It was calling me back to connection. But I didn't, at this point, I had destroyed and made such a mess of my life. I knew that I had peace with her at this point because we hadn't consummated this connection or chosen this connection in that way. We were being very innocent with each other. So what this did when we finally slept together is it made me start looking at my guilt, not my innocence. It was lost. So I never came back for at least a good 2 years.
When he left that day after we slept together, it was 2 years before I heard his voice again. And that was okay.
Yeah.
There was a 6-month period of time where the longing was there. The questions needed answered. I felt a pull to him.
Like the random emails I would get.
Yeah.
I'd get emails from her and I wouldn't respond.
Yeah. I found.
Wait, how many times did you email him and he not respond, Sherry?
Hundreds.
A lot.
Hundreds.
A lot.
Yeah.
And did you read all the emails, Lee?
No. I saw them. And sometimes I deleted them. And sometimes I would open them and kind of see what she was saying. But I didn't go all. I wouldn't let myself. I was disconnected from me completely at this point because I was trying to figure out how I learned to disconnect. I was at the beginning stages of seeing what my disconnect was doing to me, and that had to run its course. Because when I did come back, I was coming back because I was ending my life. I came back to kind of come full circle because I thought that was the connection point. I didn't realize there was something more I needed to learn inside.
Yeah.
Does that make
So
sense?
you couldn't be connected with her in everything she wanted to share and email you because you weren't even connecting with you at that point.
Is it possible to be in this connection without being connected to yourself completely?
Okay, so Sherry, the 2 years went through.
The 2 years went through, and the first 6 to 8 months was really bad. I found myself falling into an obsession over him. I did all the calling. I did all the following up. I had switched jobs. I had called his job as a random customer. Found out he didn't work there anymore. I lost track of him after a while. I started dating pretty heavy. And then I got pretty tired. At that point, I was in a different type of mode. Now I want security. Now I want a husband and my kids and a white picket fence and a couple dogs and some sun tea on the porch, that kind of stuff. I wanted that. I had different thought process 2 years later. I was tired of being single. And so I was dating for intention at that point. And then guess who came back?
Okay, but I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you're dating with intention.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lee still on your mind? Someone you're thinking of as a possibility? Have you let it go? Where's your mind at with regard to this connection?
Lee was always in the back of my mind, but I had convinced myself that there was no way possible that I could ever have a romantic relationship with him because I couldn't imagine living my life having to look over my shoulder, always wondering what he was doing. He was so mysterious to me at that point, and there was some major trust issues now because now he had just ghosted, even though my energy was pretty much pushing him out of the way. But I could tell that there was some deception just by looking at him, just by being in his energy. I knew that he was either married or he was in a serious relationship. My intuition was at least telling me that. And so,
Had you asked him?
multiple times.
And what,
Mul-
Lee, how did you respond?
I avoided the question.
You giving me that duh look.
I mean, when you're in your head,
Yeah.
you find ways around everything.
And I would even ask him, what are we? What are we? And I would get a long-winded alien email about labels.
Yep.
And it was so frustrating and so annoying. But I gave up. I gave up on him at that point, and I decided that I wasn't going to be obsessed over this person. I'm stronger than that. I've got to move on, and I don't know what the pool is with this person, but I'm over it. And
Just bring us to how many years in you are at this point.
we are 2 years in.
15 years.
No, at this point now, or where we're at in the story.
Where we're at in the story, how many years?
No, and
So
we're at the story. We're
we're 2 years in.
We met
Yeah.
over the summer of 2005, and I didn't return until the fall of 2007.
Okay.
And at that point, I had cleaned up a majority of myself, but at the same time, I didn't, because I think what I was doing when I reached back out to her is the best parts of me were still in her heart. And I knew that I could be the man that she was spending that time with. I just didn't realize that's what I was doing. So what ended up happening when I came back, her heart opened back up and gave me a part back to myself that I think probably helped me through this connection, because I couldn't understand it. I couldn't make sense of any of it. And when I came back, we decided to see each other. I think the couple of times that she did see me, she did notice that I was literally very intoxicated and numb. And when I would see her, she'd see a light in me, but I couldn't see it because I was just in a different space. So when we started talking, we really kind of developed a communication line in our connection where I felt like I could open to her because she was with somebody else. What choice did I have? But little things started coming out of me. She finally found out I was seeing other people. She found out that I was living with someone. She found out a lot of things. And, when I tried to take my life thereafter, because it was the day after my birthday that we saw each other, she got a hotel room and I left her to go to another hotel room. I was a son of a bitch. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't in my heart at all because my heart was already closed. My heart was closed before I met her. She spent some time reopening her heart and reconnecting with herself. I didn't know what that even meant because I was just too far gone. But sometimes you get a second chance, you get a reset. And I think what happened in the reset on October 18, 2007, I started coming more from my heart than my head, and it changed everything. And it was a very painful experience for the next 2 years.
At this point, we were in our 40s, early 40s?
Yeah.
Look, we got 2 minutes, 1 minute left in our little story here, but here, I'm going to dumb it down for you. I married someone else. I had a child with someone else.
And I felt it all.
All the while we were talking as friends and trying to figure out what was going on.
We should probably add, we weren't talking every day.
No.
It was once like every couple of months. I would resurface and then I would disappear for the next 2 years. Yeah. After the 2-year return.
I had a baby. Lee's the one that told me that I was pregnant. We had many ugly separations. There was court, there was jail, there were miscarriages, There were
physical
altercations. There were other partners. There were.
And then she found out in 2009, my final hiding spot where I finally told her I was married and had been for 16 years. And that's when I completely lost her. And that's when everything really started to speed up.
Now we both have to get divorced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this story can go on and on and on. It was so ugly, so much, such a struggle. There's no other way to describe it. It was getting to the top of that mountain, and you think that there's a slide, a smooth sailing slide down the end of that mountain, that once you get up there and you find this big love, that you're just going to grab it, slide down the slide.
Yeah.
But there's spikes in the slide and thorns and things sticking up it.
And what's interesting about it is the connection don't care.
The connection doesn't care.
If one's going down the mountain, you're not that far behind. If one's going up the mountain, you're not that far behind. But it's how you meet at the top of that mountain that really says a lot about how you get and stay in your heart instead of your head. And that's kind of what when we finally
our final separation was.
Our final separation was in 2012, the very beginning. And there was a separation that happened, and then I found a bunch of information. And that information led into what I didn't know. And that's what happens in this connection. There's a part of yourself and parts of yourself you don't want the person you're connected to know, but you're not seeing it the way that we ended up having to see it, because that was our mission. We needed to see what it was we were disconnecting from in each other to understand that we were doing that in ourselves first. The other person was just showing us where we were disconnected. And the more we started realizing that, that was the birth of our emotional connection.
We had to go through other relationships first.
Absolutely.
We both separated in 2012. Yeah. We both had other relationships with other people. And it was a process for us to come back together. A big one. And it's all beautiful, as ugly as it is.
And the intensity now is more of a blissful experience than it used to be. Because we do have that understanding. We pretty much know where each other is and how we share that in the one heart.
No, I don't know how we did that in 20 minutes, but
y'all did it. I'm so impressed. That blew me away, because I've sat through.
Never had to do.
All right, Kay.
I've sat in the Our Journey playlist. That was one of your Our Journey playlist.
It's not quite Tiger King.
No, it is not the Tiger King.
Close.
But it is one of the most profoundly detailed recollections of what it is like to be in this connection on the day-to-day level, both 3D, 5D, however people want to differentiate between their spiritual world and their physical world. It is one of the most detailed accounts. Like, I think every video, and they're all like 40 minutes long, I cried.
We've never
like I literally cried because of how I kept having the experience of, oh my God, somebody gets it. Oh my God, I'm not alone. No. Oh my God, they had it way worse than me. Holy shit. Yeah. Oh my God, I know they can help me. If they've been there, then they can deal with this little shit show I've got over here.
But do you see your gift in being able to see that? Because, Kay, you literally connect all of the dots for astrology. So hearing us helps you connect a lot more dots.
Amen, brother. It does. It does. It just, hearing your story has helped it all. Every time I hear another piece of your story, you know, even in the day-to-day of your current experiences, you guys tell me what's going on, and I'm like, oh, so you mean A, B, C, and D in my connection? Okay, got it. Thank you. Enough about me. Let's talk about our viewers. We're going to talk about me the next time I talk to you guys. which should be next week if we can swing it, if we can make our schedules align. Gemini Princess is saying, I highly recommend Lee and Sherry's root camp. I will second that. Root camp, for those of you that don't know, where get your questions ready, start pasting them, because we are now moving into the Q&A portion of our time together. I did promise that you could ask them anything, and I know that they can roll with anything. And so get your question ready and start typing them in, because your questions are what's going to direct the next portion of our time together. And your questions, I do believe that every single person here was divinely guided, not just for themselves, but on behalf of the collective. There's someone who's going to watch this in the coming months that's going to recognize themselves in your question and be grateful that you chose to ask the vulnerable, the difficult, the hard question based on where you're at. And Lee and Sherry are master coaches when it comes to helping you break down the barriers in your own heart to having the connection you so deeply want with your beloved other. They can help you build the bridge to that, starting with yourself first. So yeah, Root Camp is definitely one of their offerings. I've done it. I continue to do it because it is that breakthrough for me. And I highly recommend that anyone who, recognizes in themselves that, I've got some work to do when it comes to not lying to myself, not walling off parts of myself to other people, recognizing and honoring and cherishing the way my parents did love me, because that is the blueprint and the template for love. Um, Being willing to receive that love and shed the stories that keep us from having love in the present. If you want to get there and you want to do that, Root Camp is the place to do that. And these two are the two to do it with. I cannot recommend it enough. And they've got other stuff that they'll talk to you about momentarily, but I see the questions coming in. Are you guys ready for some
Oh, yeah.
questions?
No.
Awesome. No.
No.
Ah, hilarious.
No.
Okay. You two are so
We all
funny.
want that.
Once he starts, I
Everybody
can't
wants
stop him.
it.
But you've got the special button power.
Can only control. Oh, I do.
No, you saw my no. I was trying to let you remind you of something. No. See, you can see it. No, right?
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people do that.
Yeah. Anytime you say no, but then nod your head, the real answer is what your body's doing, not what your mouth is saying.
You just
Okay.
action in a nutshell.
There's connection. Interview over. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Jewel Jeffrey says, I thought I had a lot of shit going on, but I realized my shit is little shit compared to you guys, because may God bless you guys, but the strength that God has given you guys. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, a Jewel. I wonder if it's the same Jewel.
So question here, if you feel your twin in deep pain, he's communicating through 5D music, and I feel he needs me, but he's pushed me away and does not ask for help. But I worry about his mental health. Should I reach out?
How are you accepting him in his pain? Does it sound like you're accepting him in his pain? Ask yourself the truth. I mean, one of the hardest things for any human being to do is accept the other person when they're in pain. We all run from pain. We're doing it to ourselves and we do it to each other. Look at our country and our world right now. We're having people die by themselves, and they're connected. They know that there's a connection point inside that everybody's joined in, but nobody's paying attention to it. So if someone's in pain, sitting with them is the best thing you can do. And
Even if they told you not to reach out and they want to be alone?
Well, sometimes they do that to make sense or to help you make sense of what they're doing to themselves. It's easy to tell someone to leave you alone when you're not paying attention to how you're hurt.
What do you do in the case that they really do want you to leave them alone?
Then
We're
you,
not trying to get no
then you,
police.
Right?
then you
We're
get
not trying to
quiet.
get no charges.
You get quiet. You open up your heart and just listen. I mean, if you're not helping them listen to their pain, then you're just kind of egging it on. So what if you just sat there and said, okay, I'm going to keep my space, but I'm going to open my heart to their pain and help them through this? What about that option?
They feel the openness.
Well, the best way to put it then, you can only give them what you give yourself. So if you know they're in pain and you can see they're in pain and it's triggering you, it's because you're doing it to you too. This connection doesn't play around with that. It shows you the reflection in the mirror in a lot of ways. If you know you push people away when you're hurt, don't get upset when your twin does it to you. I mean, there's a lesson concealed in it, right? The hurt and the pain that we carry, are you trying to tell yourself there's not you inside of there, the real you?
Deep stuff. All right, we're going to roll to the next question. If you want a deeper dive on that, my friend, you got to do root camp. They'll help you through it for sure. All right, Bex says, why is it when you physically move far away from your twin that the connection seems so much stronger?
Well, I guess the question then would be,
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Okay. I guess the question would be, how fast have you run away from your family? Because you learned how to do that. You know how to run from connection and feel okay. Why did you run?
Right.
Got me over here taking deep breaths. That question.
Like, are you okay?
I love it. This is beautiful. Okay. Northern Comfort Tarot asks, when you guys got into union, what was the best tool to navigate through triggers when your perfect mirror is right in front of you all the time?
All the time. Get it.
Oh, you want the answer? Because we've been practicing this for a while now. When I'm triggered, I realize that there must be something in me that got hurt once before, and I go inside to the inside of that hurt and find myself and say, hey, she doesn't know that you're triggered. What is this hurt about? And I listen, because you're not paying attention to the rules of connection. When you're triggered, it's from a hurt you're carrying that you haven't healed. How are you healing that and going inside to find out what's inside of that hurt, to understand why you're triggered? Not taking it out on somebody else is fueling what the hurt is. It's just expanding it. It's like you spill all over everything if you don't take care of that hurt. Right?
Right on. Great answer. All right. Next question. Fila asks, and Sherry, if you could speak to this one a little bit. Do I have to reconnect with my father physically to connect to the divine masculine side of me? I don't trust him as I fear he is still abusive.
You do not. Absolutely do not. I want to say but so bad, but I'm going to say however instead.
That's different. That's not the same ass.
Yeah.
However, it's not the same ass as butt, but I get it.
Okay, you made me lose my train of thought.
I'm
What's the
sorry.
question? What's the question?
The question was, does she have to physically meet
Okay.
with the divine masculine to heal the divine masculine within her if she doesn't trust the masculine she's connected
Gotcha.
from?
Okay. That was the alien question. That wasn't K Moon's question, but
that was
I
the way
get
it was being asked.
Daddy Issues 101 right here. Not only once, but twice. I had a bad dad and a bad stepdad. I got a double dose. My dad was an alcoholic. He stayed in the bars. My stepdad was sexually abusive and physically abusive. Major issues with masculine energy. big trust issues, big fear issues, big control issues. No man is ever going to control me ever again, was my mantra, is my mantra from time to time, but was my mantra from the time I was 10 years old and until the time, well, till now, a lot of times. Um, it's uh it's it's interesting. I have had to come to terms with both of my father figures without coming to terms with them physically. My father's deceased, and I had come to a good place with him. He's been gone for 20 some years, but he was just the worst father. There's no other way to describe it. He wasn't even there the day I was born. He was just a hot mess. So I was able to have somewhat of a relationship with him when I was a teenager and a young adult because I had to go to the bar to have conversations with him. When my father died, there was unresolved things in me like you wouldn't believe. But I thought I had every opportunity in the world that I was going to be able to at least talk to him when he got older, and I got older, right? And I didn't have that opportunity. And my stepdad, I don't need that in me. What I needed to fix, what I needed to forgive, what I needed to have a relationship was with me. I needed to forgive myself for not forgiving myself, for blaming myself for a lot of the things that happened. That was big. That was big. But the answer to your question simply is no, you do not have to. But there are some things that you will have to and you do have to resolve within yourself when it comes to unforgiveness and mistrust and hate oftentimes, and so many emotions we have when it comes to our fathers and abuse and neglect and so many unresolved issues. Um, if it's so toxic or in a place that triggers you or a place that just isn't healthy, absolutely not. We would never have you go into another toxic situation or speak with somebody that's so toxic to you. But there are some things that you do have to resolve in yourself.
That's a very helpful response. Thank you. All right. Appreciate that. Great question. We've got some spiritual questions coming through. There are some people, Cecilia asks, have you met twins that have never met in the physical, but they're connected in the fifth dimension? They know they're twins. Have you met people who've been in that circumstance? Can you help people who have been in that circumstance where they know that they know that they know that person is my twin flame? They've never met in the physical world.
We've had that in so many reverse ways. We've had celebrities who tell us they're connected to somebody who's a non-celebrity. And we've had people who are non-celebrities tell us they're connected to a celebrity. There is no sense and direction when it comes to connection because it doesn't put one person above the other. Even if they've never met. Everything is waking you up. This one's just going to wake you up a lot faster than anything else.
Right on. Thank you. All right. Love it. Welcome, Empress of Duality. Great to have you here. Rose 28 says, my twin says he finds it difficult to forgive me because of my past relationships with men. And this put us in separation, in the separation. What can I do around this at this time?
How have you forgiven you? Because that's how he's going to learn to forgive you. He'll have to follow the path that you lead.
And, I have to add that there's something in you that is overpowering that because you're with that person, yeah. Right? So there's something inside of you that's bigger than that, right? And, when it comes to forgiveness, we should probably be in the Guinness Book of World Records because we have a record-breaking number of forgiveness.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. What are you holding on to the unforgiveness for?
Right.
Like what purpose is it bringing to your life? I have a lot of things that in my life, and even with some family members that I have held on to some unforgiveness for, I come to a place where I can forgive. There just is a place where so much toxicity will bring your vibration down. And when you're wanting to stay in, a particular vibe, then some people just have to be not eliminated, but just step back away from, right? But I happen to still have some of your people that you saw on my Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about the question is he upset with you being with these other people when you weren't connected to yourself? And, do you make decisions openly or make decisions rashly because you're not connected to yourself? And that's what the actual wound is. How did you heal the connection to yourself to realize that those choices made was during a time when you weren't connected to yourself versus when they are? Help them understand that. Because you're with him because of connection. You were doing that when you weren't connected to yourself. There's two different modes here that you really got to focus on. How are you healing, not being connected to yourself and making those choices? And how are you resolving that and healing that now in connection? Because that's what he's going to need to be able to see, to understand that he can trust you, understand that you're connected to you. Did you make those choices while not being connected to yourself, and you can still see that in you?
Hope that helped.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm sitting up here talking to myself. I muted myself. So I did this last time, but I'm going to ask you if you have energy to do more questions than the original 25 minutes allotted, because we're almost over that.
No, we're good.
Yeah. Keep going.
Love it. Let's get into it, people. Let's get into it. All right. Rebecca T says, what do you say to twins where one is married and says that they miss you and they aren't happy and they go blah, 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 blah. My life without you sucks, blah, blah, blah. But they don't leave the marriage. They stay in it. How do you handle that?
You want me or you want to?
Should you go ahead?
Are you sure?
Yeah, go on, girl. Make it happen. I don't know what she's about to say, but please.
Twin or not, connected or not, if they are in a relationship with someone else, they are not choosing you in that moment. You have to choose you. They can't choose you until you choose you. That's very big. So let's put you in the position where you are choosing yourself and you are single and you are connected to somebody who is not. Again, he's not or she's not choosing you. So it brings us to a place where you're stuck in a position where you're not being chosen, but you want to be. The mindset of that, help me out here, so because I'm getting a little muffled, but
okay.
The mindset there kind of doesn't make sense to me if you are claiming that you are choosing yourself, because you really can't choose yourself if you're trying to choose someone who's not choosing you. Does that make sense?
It's a conundrum.
Okay.
You're right, because what happens is you're waiting for them to choose you, then you choose you. And that's when you join them and listen to what they're saying and they're telling you they want you in their life every day and they miss you and all of that, they're telling you about an aspect of themselves that the person they're married to can't see. And they're going to probably tell you a bunch of things. But here's what you probably should ask. Is staying there keeping you connected to me, or are you finding a way to disconnect from me? And what's that doing to your heart when you're doing that? You can be in the open space and choose yourself while remaining connected. You guys were connected when he got married. You just didn't meet yet. He's got to go through life lessons. The lessons that he's going through now is can he stay in a bad situation and be sad? He might have done that since childhood. He's got to figure that out. But the thing is, the more you listen to that, the more that comes out. the more those unanswered emotions become emotions that are being answered. So you got to be very mindful or mindless and just be there with your heart open to really listen to what's happening. The way that I did that with her when she was married and they had Cameron, we were both married, but I ended up, and she was in her marriage, and she says, I got to get divorced. And I said, I got to get divorced too. And that was it. She left. But when she came back, because I was connected to myself, because that's all I had was my connection to myself, which was in heavy disconnect and was building its way back until I told her everything. Then it shattered it all so I could rebirth. So what happened was when I came back and I did hear from her, I asked her about her. I asked her about her husband. I asked her about the kids. I asked her how she was. I asked her what was going on. And I didn't question or tell her she needed to leave him to be connected to me. I didn't set any rules because the connection is going to remain regardless. So why rock the boat? I mean, if you're connected, you're connected. Now you got to understand why you're connected and how you're showing up in the connection. I didn't want her to feel that I wasn't supportive of her. I didn't want her to feel that I was trying to destroy anything for her. I wanted her to know that I was connected to her regardless of all of that. And when and you kind of taught me to do that early on with me going with me through my pain and my metamorphosis and my changes. She was there for me when nobody else was, even if it was months at a time, months out at a time. When you did show up, you were open. You didn't judge me. You didn't tell me I was doing wrong. You didn't slam me. The only thing she could say is, you're a slow learner. I took that and said, okay, let's learn everything slowly to understand how I learn it. So when we're talking about the dynamic family that came from our union is like anything you've ever seen. It is so mixed at this point. Ex-husbands living with brothers, stuff like that, right? I mean, it gets really beautiful really quickly when you accept the connection and understand they're in a marriage or relationship, because it's not the same thing.
Both of my exes come out here for grill outs. His ex-wife comes out here for grill outs. Birthday parties for the kids, for the grandkids. It's beautiful.
You have to break your own conditions. Them choosing to be in that marriage is a condition. That means that he's only feeling you love him conditionally. Change it to unconditional. Listen, but don't try to change anything. Because the moment he hears something that sounds like it's hurting you, he's not going to choose you because he tells himself he's hurting you. Let him know that you get where he's coming from. That's important.
Yeah.
I mean, when we did that, when I said, no, I'm not, our connection is our connection. Because when she said, Ron asked me, why aren't you two together? And that got them talking. And there was a child, less than 2 years old, involved. And I had a deep connection to that child as much as I had a deep connection to her. And I started to connect to all of them, including her husband, which I didn't see that I had anything against. I'm connected to her. What's that have to do with anybody?
Probably closer to him than I am now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he lives with my brother. So I guess it really depends on how you're accepting what you're saying or accepting what he's saying. Because what he looks at, is he looking at you saying, we're connected. Do you accept this about me? I'm sad. I'm miserable. I miss you every day. But when you absorb that, do you close your heart right behind it and say, well, you're not choosing me? That's not what Sherry's saying when she's saying choose you. You choose yourself in the connection, not choose yourself out of it, because that just creates a bigger wall. You learn to do that.
She muted.
Yeah, she's
Yeah, no, I just had to digest that. My finger was on the mute button. I think that's really profound. And if you guys want to go deeper, I've placed their email inside the chat so you can find your way to their free 30-minute session. Spoiler alert, for this audience only. They have this free, I don't know if it's only, but for you guys, they are definitely offering you a free 30-minute connection check where you have the ability to look at your connection with yourself and with your twin to figure out what's blocking you from really having the connection you say you deeply want. And so you can do that on the house. I've put their email there so you can find it. Definitely give them an email so you can set that up in the next week. You're home, you've got nothing else to do. You might as well look at your blocks. All right, that being said, let's move on. Next question. Um, did you guys, where did that question go? CK, were you trying to get together or did it just unfold organically?
Um, no, I wasn't trying. I was married with a new child. I was married with a new child, so he was not. I was cool. I valued his friendship, but we were not trying to be together. However, we were trying to figure out what it was. We were trying to figure out what the friendship meant.
In 2010 to 2012, we tried to make a relationship out of the connection. And it was the most disaster. Painful thing you'd ever seen. So if you really watch, like when you watch our journey, the episodes when we actually get past her being married and Ron finally saying, why aren't you two together? And us trying to be together, we tried to put all kinds of relationship rules in this connection, and it was a disaster. And there was going back and forth for the next 2 years, and it was ugly and painful, and a lot of pain that came from that went unresolved. But it was pain that we actually didn't realize happened before then. And we started to discover that when we came together towards the end of 2012. But there's a bunch of energy that you need to pay attention to and how you label it on the inside, because once you've set up relationship is everything you never got in connection. That's all it is. But connection gives you something great. Will you stop breathing like that?
Sorry. I just taking it in. That's how I integrate. You know this. We've been in session. I integrate like this. Come on now.
Her inner child mad at
Yeah, she is. She's like, I'm trying to tell you.
Stop calling me out, people. I'm trying to facilitate an interview.
I like where your head's at.
It's perfect. All right. Next question. Happy Chicklet asks, I recently reconnected with my twin flame after separation. The connection feels very different now. It's not the bliss I felt during our initial union. Something's off. Happy Chicklet, stay tuned. I have a little video I'm going to do about that because there is something up in the astrology that's going to change in June. But I really want to know, between the two of you, were there ever moments when you reconnected where, for whatever reason, it was like, oh, something's different
I have
here.
the answer.
Okay.
Ooh. What's changed is your communication. When the communication dies down, when the communication isn't as open, when it's not as free, when you're not able to express yourself the way you need to express yourself, when you are not able to be you. And when I say that, I mean when you're able to sit there and not dry your tears when they're sitting right next to you, when you're able to just allow yourself to feel and be in those emotions, right? That's the communication that's needed for you to be able to be so open with that other person that the dullness it goes away, because it's so exciting and new every single day, because the communication is so open and free.
Right.
When it's not, when there are communication issues, when there are throat chakra issues, when there's blockages, right? It really does make the honeymoon stage dampen. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
We leave the honeymoon stage. We know how to reunite or reunion with our bliss. It has a lot to do with the connection you hold to yourself. When communication dies down or you start to feel something's amiss, how are you communicating it? Because that's what's amiss. Not talking about it, not understanding it. We both still have patches in us where we have unanswered emotions, and we're never apart. Before all of this happened, we were already under quarantine. We're already stuck without time, but we're joined in connection. So we don't need any of that stuff anyway. When you're joined in connection, it's because the connection to yourself is more full. There are parts of yourself you try to leave out of this connection, and how's that connected? So every time that you come back, or if you feel like something's off or something don't feel right, there's an emotion behind it. There's an emotional charge behind it of unanswered emotions. How are you going through those emotions to be able to share it?
Excellent observation. Thank you. It's deep, right? Okay.
Well,
Next question. Yeah.
we wanted to make sure before you answer any more questions, please know that
Yes.
I want your audience to know, I want every audience to know this. If you're noticing, we're not going to give you an answer that you don't already can point to on the inside to what the actual answer is. We've learned some pretty valuable lessons of making sure that when you look at connection, you look at what they're saying when they're talking about it, and you look at how they show up to themselves when they say it. So the reason we won't say, this is what you do to fix it, is because you already have the answers of what you do to fix it. You just need to connect to yourself to hear it. So if I end with a question, that's what I'm hoping strikes you, because that's going to be the place on the inside that you can hear these answers for yourself. There is the answer, the connection to yourself. If you can't hear your own answers, don't worry. We ask the right questions so you can hear it yourself. And be connected to you without that.
Right on. It's one of the reasons why I love working with you guys, because I know in our work, you're going to help me connect to my own divinity, my own truth, the truth that's already been staring me in the face that I just wasn't able to see. You're not going to give me your answer.
Right. Not
You're
our
going to lead me to my truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got our answers from connecting to the divine within, not without.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that statement's so powerful, because we're not going to tell you what you want to hear.
No.
And a lot of times that's painful. But we can help you navigate.
You came in, you came into this world through pain.
Yes.
Don't worry, you'll come back into this new world through pain. It's a rebirth.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, but once you fill the room, it's filled with love right after you go into the pain, not away from it.
So Veronica Atkinson asks, Leah, at what point did you notice the syncs and numbers and all the signs, etc.? At what point did you discover the connection that you shared was something different and separate, or not even separate, but just something that stood out as unique with Sherry? And once you realized that, I mean, did you know there was a label called Twin Flame or not? And did that shift anything within you when you figured out that this was somehow different?
I remember waking up one morning and being able to hear a song in my head. I had experienced it before, but after this connection, when I woke up and heard a song in my head, I knew where it was coming from. And I could close my eyes and I could see her. So I knew that's the direction. And I thought something was wrong with me. I thought, okay, I've done way too many drugs. But I was clean. So I'm going, maybe this is the after effect. Maybe this is how I messed myself up. But something about it was pure. Something about it felt like my new normal. And I didn't like it necessarily. I didn't like being able to hear a song in my head. I didn't like walking across and feeling like I would just chuckle and hear her laugh. There were little things here and there where I could almost tell she was on the inside of me. And I kept thinking, okay, this is like witchcraft, or this is something crazy. because you spend the majority of your time in your body realizing that you're disconnected from everybody. You're independent. Disconnect is probably a harsh word, but the truth is independence is disconnection. So once I started realizing that there were some things that were happening, and then I started to choke one day, and I picked up the phone and called her and said, "Is everything okay?" And she said, "Cameron was choking." And we hadn't talked in months. How do you explain that? And no, I don't think at that point, that was 2009. I didn't know what this was. She didn't discover Twin Flames until 2011. And then when she read it, a lot of it made sense, but then there was the depth that was missing. And we had no idea that's what we were in for, or what it was that we were going to come out with, and what it was we had to show everybody when it comes to this connection, because you're connected to everything, including your disconnects. And you've got to look at yourself to see that. And then you got to reconnect in those spaces where you disconnected, because your perception and your reality has changed since. So when you go back and reclaim your connection to yourself, your perception should change. That's how you know you're healing. I went someplace else again. You tapped and I probably didn't listen. I'm sorry.
Did you press the button, Sherry?
It just kind of looked like it.
Not yet. I was
You
close.
for her, she has to live with this.
I was close.
And see, I channel without even wanting to. It just, they jump in my body and say something, take off like, "Hey, stop abandoning me. Tell them who you are." You become an open magnet for connection after this. You really do. But it's beautiful. I'm not complaining. I have no complaints.
No
I
complaints.
love it.
I have no complaints. I have true love. I have no complaints.
I love it. This is fantastic. All right. For both of you, how Liana Jackson wants to know, how did it feel dating others, having sex with others, with your twins still on your mind and in your energy?
Oh, interesting question. It first and foremost, it took me personally having to let him go fully to be able to engage in any of that. And by that, I mean I had to physically let go of the obsession, the obsessive and intrusive thoughts, the aching that was in my chest and the heart, those things that were keeping me blocked and keeping my energy blocked from being free and able to allow myself to be loved or to love. And that took a minute. Once I was able to do that, and it didn't take as long as you would think. What, about 6 months?
Mhm.
Maybe about 6 months, if that. And it took him saying it was final a few times. But then the one time where he just said, "This is final. It's just final in me." And then I had to make it final in me. And that was a process. And I did it. And I'm real good at help guiding people through that letting go of. It's a process again. But I'll tell you the truth here. It was interesting at first, because at first, the difference is the person that Lee spent time with and was with, he knew from his past. So they had already been through that initial meeting and initial dating and initial things. But the guy that I was seeing was new. He was new to my life, and I never gave him any of my past story or anything. He didn't know any of that. So so the feeling was new. It was brand new. Once I was able to let him go, with knowing that Lee is in me and he'll always be in me and we're always going to be connected. That's the key. I had to let the physical relationship go, but the connection was still inside of me and alive in me and would always be. And I had to accept that. I had to accept that I was going to be in relationships with other people and still be connected with Lee. The thought process I had was, I need to lay this all out first. I need to lay out Sherry first on a silver platter. It's piled real high. It looks like a big pile of dinosaur dung on a silver platter, handing it to a brand new person and saying, here you go, here's me. Right? Fully expecting that person to run, and then you don't have to worrying about Lee and then being with somebody else. But the person didn't run. And they were like, okay, I can accept that. And then more diarrhea of the mouth. And it was beautiful, and it was fun, and it was invigorating, and it was soulful to a point for me, but he didn't get it. And we weren't connected. And he was okay with that. He was okay with not knowing that I was connected to somebody else. And I always would be. It was a perfect storm. It was the perfect storm. He offered me the world. I'll take care of you. You're your kids. You don't have to worry. You don't have to work. It was like the universe said, here's your choice. A life of this amazing life of material and things, and a marriage, and he's going to help with your kids, and everything will be great. And over here is your connection. Which curtain do you choose? I chose the physical.
Well, I mean, Lee wasn't there to co-create
Right.
the other with you.
Right. Yeah. But
It's interesting how that works,
yeah.
because we got into a war of sorts. And it's interesting now looking back at it, because we could feel each other physically being with someone else.
Yeah.
And there was like a wounding, but it was like a pull. So it's like a confusing experience because it leaves you half horny but half pissed off. And every time I would feel that searing thing in my heart, I wanted to get even. I didn't want to be with her. I wanted to make her feel what I was feeling by being with someone else. And what I started to experience when I was with someone else is there was an energy coming out of me going into the other person that made them feel like they were connected to me, but I went through them and was sent to her, which is why there was so much pain in it. When I really look at it now, there's no possible way for me to be in sexual union or any physical union or any emotional union, because now I understand that I needed to be that in here first to be able to share it with her. So when I finally learned the lesson the hard way, because even that 2 years where we were talking to each other, I was learning monogamy. I was teaching myself how to be faithful. But I had noticed that the person that I was giving all of that energy to didn't know how to receive it, and felt so much love and so much energy that they were really starting to feel like they were connected to me, but it was false in me, not them, because I knew I was connected and I was trying to make somebody else be connected to me. This connection doesn't work that way. The vibration and frequency I was carrying, she was the perfect match. So I kept trying to bring somebody who I either had a vibration with or had a frequency with, but I couldn't find somebody who had both. Hopefully that makes sense, because what happens is when you try to do that, the energy that comes from that gives them like a half twang, but the other person feels the other twang because they're a part of you. So it ends up making you feel the separate, but you can always bring it back together if you paid attention.
Yeah, that was perfect.
You did wonderful job.
Amazing.
What he said about feeling the other person is very real and is very true.
Oh yeah.
And we went through that a lot in the earlier years too, when I was married.
And when it was final.
And when it was final, even we went through it again, but we would still feel each other with other people. And I don't know how, if it's possible to knock that off. I don't think it is.
You have to, I think if you reach a place with each other and this connection where there's open flow, open connection,
yeah,
instead of just kind of tiptoeing and going, are you still with that person? Are you still, I think it just comes to accepting who the person you're connected to is, and accepting yourself either with or without them. I reached a point where I finally settled in and just said, I accept the connection even if I'm not with her. And the moment I did that, she wanted to be with me, because you can't. And if you have that non-acceptance in you, they're got to give you that non-acceptance back. And I think that we experience that in sexual and physical union in multitude of ways. And then we finally put that in the healing in ourselves first, then chose each other. But we couldn't see it at the time because we didn't understand it.
Amazing. Thank you. Great answers, great insight. So I'm going to take about 3 more questions here from the chat, just conscious of time and energy, etc. And I'm trying to answer as many questions that aren't philosophical. For those of you who see me skipping your question, I'm trying to answer questions that people. They're in here, Lee. There's all sorts in here.
What's at hand.
Yeah, you'll be able to see them in here when you watch the replay, as you tell me. So I'll take about 3 more questions here.
We don't watch our own channel.
No. That channel wouldn't exist because we still are working through our self-judgment. Watching our own channel, we would take all the content.
Every one of them would have been down. Are you kidding me?
The universe said, and we were like, okay, because when you have vulnerability, you let things go so everything changes.
Yeah, if I watched it back, I'd shut it down.
Now you know why I don't watch our sessions back, even though you let me record them.
It keeps us grounded.
Yeah.
It keeps us grounded, not watching.
Oh, I watched half of one time, and it was not that. It gave me an anxiety attack. It gave me an anxiety attack. I took it down. I said, "What was I eating? A whale that day?
I would do the same
was my
thing.
hair blue?"
The goal is for them to watch the combined energy and see how it stays together.
Yeah.
The goal is that, and if you notice, the more we're vulnerable, the closer we become. But the more we get to our humanness, the further away. Because this connection wants you to see the difference between human and being. Because you're just a being human. So you take the human part out of it and you have being, which is connected. I did it again.
You did. I love it.
Right on. I love it. Empress of Duality asks, so we're going to get to 3 questions.
Okay.
And these will be our 3 finals. For those of you that did not get your question answered, the best way to get it answered is to do Lee and Jerry's free 30-minute session, the K-Moon special, by emailing them at info@relationshipreinvented.com. I just put the email there in the chat, so definitely email them tonight if you want to make sure you're in for next week. Otherwise, you may have to wait. But I will say that Empress of Duality asks, she says she's living with her twin flame. She can see they need an upgrade in communication, given the way they're responding to one another. The question is, how do you upgrade communication? And this is par for the course for everyone this year, not just twins living together. Because once communication breaks, connection breaks.
I'm going to let Lee take the words and answer that. But before that, I'm going to give you a visual and mark this down. Go to our YouTube channel, find the video that we did in, I don't know what the name of it is, where we were sitting in front of each other at the thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There was a song that was played. We were sitting next to each other. We were facing each other. If you're really wanting to know what communication looks like without words.
Love Me Anyway, Chris Stapleton.
There it is.
And Pink.
On that video.
We don't say a word.
We don't say a word.
You will feel our connection.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll post the link up here.
We'll post the link. There's no words, and it doesn't need words. Mm-hmm. But there are so many things you can do to upgrade your communication. You both have to be willing, and you both have to be open. I know you've probably already tried the third eye connection. If you haven't, I highly suggest it. There is no way that your mind can get involved when you're touching your foreheads together like that. And you are in that third eye communication with no words. Yeah. I suggest laying in bed together a half an hour before you actually go to bed or go to sleep. If you don't really feel like talking, listen to some beautiful music together and hold your hands. If you do feel like talking, that's the perfect chance while you're laying there for the pillow talk, for the deep conversations, when you're relaxed and you're open and your day is over. and you can be together without any of that noise. Just go to bed a half an hour early and talk. And if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. That's the point, right? To get that communication out. Ask one another. Ask one another the important questions. How do you feel about this? What's going on in your head? Don't accept the I'm fines, I'm okays. Don't accept those. Don't accept the everything is wonderful today, right? I know everything's wonderful today. Did you stub your toe? You know what I mean? Everything's not wonderful 100% of the time.
And that comes from a woo.
Yeah.
So we'll
Tell me how you're feeling. I
Yeah.
want to know you. I want to know, I knew you yesterday, but I want to know you today.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add to
I said I
that,
wanted you to say words and I did.
you did fantastic. I posted that so you can put the links up. One of the easiest ways to look at this, you're looking for the upgrade, look for where you downgraded yourself in communication inside. It would sound something like this. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Oh, I know he's going to walk away if I say this. Oh, does he know you're doing that? Because that would be an entry space where you could actually start showing up vulnerable so you can grow the love, grow the acceptance. Sometimes when we don't communicate, when we settle into the space, all of those old wounds come back. It would sound like this if you really look for it. And I'm going to give an example off of what Sherry said. You come home from school and somebody asks you, how was school? It was okay. Got any homework? Yeah, a little, or no. And after a couple of days, that's where your connection and communication starts showing up again, because that's what you're used to. Somebody not asking you deeper questions. So when you might be careful of asking deeper questions or not believing what they're telling you. But I think it's all in how you're asking versus how you're answering it. When you're looking for an upgrade, you got to look deeper within to find out where you downgraded yourself. Because everything that you're given, there are two sides. When you're communicating now, is there an upside and a downside? And how much are you spending time in the upside versus the downside? And how do you tell each other about it? If you're in there telling yourself they won't accept that, that's you rejecting yourself. That's where the communication needs the upgrade. Not outside of you, inside of you. You'll start speaking differently when you upgrade that inside yourself. It's like anytime we find connection, we've chased it all the way back to a child that somehow ended up with unanswered emotions and shut themselves down. Have you reclaimed that child to figure out how to upgrade what she can say? Have you looked at how there are certain things that you were experienced where you were told not to feel a certain way? Those are wounds. In this connection, it is going to show you that in the worst way, probably 10 times what it was before, with the 10 times hurt. Depends on how many times it happened to you, is how much hurt you buried, and the girl or guy in it. So when you look for communication, you got to pull them out, because they still got words to say to you because you buried them. And that's inside of you. And whatever you're doing inside of you, don't worry, your twin will do to you too, just to make sense of why you do it. And it makes no sense at all.
But it's profound in that way, that the communication will mirror. I'll just add to that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Empress of duality. In my experience over the course of my life, communication has been one of the things I've had to work on quite a bit. It's also one of the things I'm an absolute stickler about, in terms of making sure that what the words that come out are precise in the ways that they communicate what the actual lived experience is. But that's only one side of communication. The other side of communication has to do with being willing to hear whatever is coming through as a complete glass of body of water, body of glass, like complete no judgment, complete no hooks. And that's where most of us have the breakdown, is that we get hooked in our listening to what someone else is saying, into our own story. We hook that into our own meaning making machine. And so, one of the best tools that I have found when it comes to this, now you can use this if it resonates for you, don't if it doesn't. There are other tools on the universe. But in about 2.5 days, I got my capacity to hear whatever comes from another cleaned up and expanded by doing something called the Landmark Forum. Now, there are people who've done it, some love it, some hate it, some don't like the way that they sell things. I get nothing out of sharing this with you. But I am going to say that the forum's work around expanding your capacity to be with information that you may find challenging or triggering is bar none. And that, because I know that that's where communication breaks so often, is that we don't even recognize that our ears have filters on them. The forum will help you recognize the filters and take them off well enough to be able to be with another person truly where they are at. The second piece about this is that they have 2 communication courses that I have found useful, but you have to do the forum first in order to get to the communication courses. You can also do root camp. Root camp will help you. But if you know you need to do that kind of, like, if you know you constantly get stuck in the same place and it's not just with this person, you've gotten stuck in this place repeatedly throughout your life, I would go ahead and just make the investment, do the forum sometime in 2020, do the 2 communication courses, because communication is one of the few things when I read charts for people, it's one of the few things that human beings have lived on planet Earth long enough to recognize they must get right in order to survive and thrive, that they have built like mastery level courses around it, that there's just no need to live in a place of breakdown. You may not like the forum, you may like something else, but there are so many communication courses existing on planet Earth that living in a place of breakdown it's not required at this point in human history. You can overcome that, and you can overcome it very quickly, because it's one of the few things that humans have built courses of mastery around. I will also say, like I've already said, root camp will help you get there so freaking fast, specifically with your twin, because in their work, they help you to recognize where those filters in your listening are. Most of the issue doesn't have to do with what comes out. It has to do with how you understand what's coming in and the meaning you make out of that. So if you can start to make meaning in a way that allows you to hear love, see love, that's going to transform your capacity to be in communication.
Absolutely.
It's exactly what we do in root camp. We show you where the blocks are and why they're there and how they got there.
And how do you go
Yeah.
into it to heal it?
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
that's the big key. Everybody's looking for the answer of how to heal, but nobody's pointing them back inside. And that's what we do. We actually have been growing now for quite some time, and we still suffer under some of our own wounds, but we're quicker now than we ever were to reconnect, not with each other, but with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't see your connection to yourself, what are you asking them to connect to?
Absolutely right.
But
Absolutely
we got to
right.
be real careful not to talk about Sandra and Alan anymore because they are in the room.
Oh no, just kidding. Hi, Salen.
Hey, Sandra and Alan. Salen. I think I made up your name the other day. I blended your name and called you Andra.
Nice.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I absolutely love about Root Camp that I can't recommend enough, especially if you're twins in union and the breakdowns are happening around communication, is the way that Lee and Sherry help you understand the filter that's living on top of your ears that causes you to stop hearing love when someone else is communicating with you, because it's when you don't hear love that we go into those patterns of reactivity and responding from a place of separation, and that just begets more separation. And all it takes is one person to move into separation, and then it just starts to be a ping pong game.
Yeah, it's like faucet turning. Have you ever heard of this? So
What's a faucet turning?
okay, so check this out. So me and Sherry can hold hands standing in front of a faucet.
Faucet turning.
One side is hot, the other side is cold. Now, I can tell you right now, I know Sherry to the depth that she likes cold water, but I always drink water at room temperature. So we've met and compromised and done it both ways with each other. That's what this connection is trying to show you. So if I'm on one side pulling the handle, and when I take both of our hands and put it up under there and it's too hot, we both get burned. But if we both look at the temperature and find a temperature we both can keep our hands under, we're connected. What happens is the other person keeps trying to reach down and say, why don't you turn that up a little bit? You're not checking your temperature between each other to know what's going to bring you into union. You just not. And you're doing that because you've always learned to do things on your own. Now you're doing this as one, and you're not checking to see if you like the same temperature. It's really interesting, but if you really think about it, when you're by yourself and you turn on the hot and you turn on the cold, you get it to a temperature you like. Try taking your twin and putting them up under that, and they might like it colder.
You know what I just did? I just turned the temperature down in the house, so his room temperature water was a little cooler.
That's not right, Sherry.
But she's actually telling the truth. And what I found out is I've never had a really strong desire for warm room temperature water. But when I came into this connection, I couldn't drink cold water anymore. And I didn't realize that she drank a lot of cold water. But when we came together, it was hot.
Oh,
amazing.
Yeah, we're going to let you have it.
All right. So we're going to get to the last two questions in a minute. So hang out to see if I answer your question, because I might. But before we get to those last two questions, Lee and Sherry, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the ways that people can partner with you and grow with you?
We have some amazing programs you can get involved in. When Lee and I began coaching, look, this isn't what we thought we were going to be doing. This is what the universe gave us to do, and we accepted it, and we're doing it. After a period of time, we realized that there's not a whole lot of people out there that's getting it, and we would like to teach that. We need help. The collective needs help. So for quite a few years now, we've trained coaches to do what we do, and it's a 7-month program. It's amazing. The training and the coaching is surrounded around connection. It is all about connection, and it hits everything from career to your relationships to it's all founded upon the connection you have to yourself. So things that you're strong at may come from a wound, but there's two sides to it. One that actually motivates you to be successful, the other side that leaves you alone. And what we've been able to do is really connect some really big dots and show you how to coach somebody through that. Our root camp program is included in that. That program's on our website. Email us for a K-Moon certification special. You put that in the subject line, and you'll get a special on that program. Lee and I do a lot of traveling as well. We do a lot of traveling. We do a lot of seminars. We're supposed to be on tour in 2020, but that's not happening at the moment. But the last leg, I hope, will happen. While we're out there and we're doing seminars, we like to have what we call connection guides with us. Those are people, when we go to that area, we have some local people, at least closer, that'll travel to come with us or whatever. We call those connection guides. We have a connection guide course, and connection guide, again, is about communication and understanding connection in the twin flame dynamic as well. Hi, Gemma. Learning this connection, what connection's about. What is connection? It's designed to let you see your
generational conditioning as well as your family conditioning to understand why you show up disconnected sometimes. And sometimes it's an inherited trait. So what we do is we help you look at that and see where the breakdowns happen. This would be the understanding of reading an Akashic record in each individual. So you'd be able to figure out what happened to their 0 point. The 0 point is the connection between you and the mother and the father. And if anything got broken there, your ability to trust and unconditional love gets broken. And then it starts breaking off certain pathways to your masculine, pathways to your feminine.
Our connection guide program is what? About, what is it?
12 weeks.
12 weeks.
It's 12 weeks.
12 weeks program. Again, another K-Moon special. So just put in the subject line K-Moon special for any of these programs and we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it. Root camp. Root camp, life changing, will change your life. We start from the very beginning. We get to know you better than you know yourself. Again, we have always, and we will always run a K-Moon Root Camp special. It's big. That's big. Our K-Moon Root Camp special is big. We're also going to do a special for K-Moon. We're doing a 90-minute deep dive session. So you email us and just put deep dive session and just email us. Let's get you a 30-minute. Let's talk to you. Let's figure out what's going on with you. Let's help you out, and we can figure it out.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you can find us at relationshipreinvented.com and info@relationshipreinvented.com.
And you can find us here on YouTube. Just type in Lee and Sherry. Like we said, there are journeys on there. It's about 26 episodes, 27 coming soon, about what we're currently going through. I saw that somebody does know about what's going on with you. She's doing great. We're working her through it, and we're connecting to healing. Yeah. That's a big thing, but we're focused on healing to make that healing happen. So this is some healing you need in connection to yourself. That's why we're here. And we give a ton of stuff away. The stuff that you want to do for yourself, you invest in yourself. But trust us, if you connect to your own healing, you heal a lot in connection when you do.
Absolutely beautiful. So I've pasted all of that information there for people in the chat. I will also link all of this as a pinned comment underneath this video so that you can find your way to it if you happen to be watching the recording. Just look at the first comment underneath this video and you'll get all the details. But the main thing to do is to email Lee and Sherry if you want more information. So 2 questions as our final questions of the evening. Let's see. Disco asks, Lee, can you please talk about how at a point in your relationship, how it felt just sexual, because that was such an easy way to express yourselves. I have felt this and it is confusing.
Well, seeing as how I've been connected to her this entire time, I started to figure out once we came into this connection a lot about connecting to my sexual self. There's a wound there because I actually witnessed my parents rip each other apart because of sexual relations with others. This is an infection. See, what we end up doing is calling that person a cheater, not even paying attention to the actual wound they're carrying. So once I actually went in and investigated, did I have some kind of sexual obsession or was there something there? The communication that I have in my sexual body, she can answer. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but there is communication and openness that you experience there that's supposed to help heal a bunch of things. What we end up doing is thinking that other people can give us that healing. Because I didn't understand the point of us coming together sexually, But once I actually saw all of the stars and the stripes, and then I was starting to experience what she was feeling, and she was experiencing with that. It's an entirely well.
Fireworks.
Sorry, stars and stripes, Brad.
Stars.
It was infinite.
All stars.
You reach that place of bliss, but then you start finding that when you're doing it with other people, it's like, wait a minute, that
where are the stars and stripes?
Well, the stars and stripes are there, but you're containing it, giving it to the other person, and they're like, what the hell is this? Because making love and connection is not like making love outside of it. Mm-hmm. You can make love in a relationship and you can get to know each other's body, but there's something that happens when it's purely animalistic, because it takes you back to core, it takes you back to connection. And there's things that happen in that connection where you're communicating at a deeper level. Mm-hmm. I kept looking for that, and I didn't understand why I was. I thought it was just as a man, you start to feel like you're conquering, but the truth was I was looking for somebody to answer me, not realizing that I didn't know that's what I was looking for. So when we come together sexually, there's an energy there that doesn't need me to say anything. And we often sometimes go like this, but then when it happens, look out. I mean, the earth moves and the universe shifts. So sorry, but we know how to rock the house.
Changes the energy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole.
Yeah. It's different with her than any. There's oneness, and that's the most sought after thing when you become human, is oneness with somebody. We all looking for that glimpse because we get a small glimpse when we're with others, but it's not the whole thing if you don't have the whole thing. And you don't see it because you're not telling yourself you're whole. Now that I feel in myself whole when I'm with her sexually, the experience blows away what we used to have. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many more questions I want you to answer. But we only have time for one more. And for those of you who have a burner that I have not gotten to, know that it is not because I haven't seen it, but because I really am trying to answer the questions that I know most of the people on the channel have. And if you'd like to get your burner answered, definitely email them at info@relationshipreinvented.com. They will spend 30 minutes of you completely free of charge to help you think through and heart your way through the challenges that you're facing right now.
We promise a healing in every 30 minutes. We made sure that that's the focus. So when you come in with us for 30 minutes, we're going to heal something big, something you didn't even know you needed to heal.
That's right.
We're going to help you put it into healing.
Yeah, and it's going to connect you. You'll feel it. We promise.
It's absolutely right.
Just let us know. We got you.
So for our final question, Amy Fitzgerald has a really beautiful question about being in separation and letting go, which for so many of us who are self-quarantining right now, whether we were in some stage of pre-union, almost union, but kids with somebody else that we need to quarantine with, this is such a relevant question. She says, I feel like letting go is like a betrayal at some level. It's been difficult to share my heart with anyone else. He is the one space my heart is open. Can you talk to me about this?
Absolutely. Your question, when it comes to feeling like nobody else can connect, is not nobody else can connect. It's how are you connecting to you through separation? Because if you don't connect to yourself, your separation will continue, because connection doesn't know what time is. You do. But you're going to have to remove time to connect to yourself so separation doesn't exist. Are you asking yourself if you're connected to yourself while you're in separation? And how are you accepting where you are in this moment?
It's really profound.
You can't expect him to connect to you if you're not. Separation, it's kind of a collective thing. People tell you that you're going to go through separation, so you create it, but you create it from a wound you already had that separated you from yourself. This is your chance to reclaim you. Connecting you is not an easy thing. I promise you, you will go through it, but I promise you, when you're finally holding yourself, it'll be worth it. He can't hold you if you are not. So look at the separation that way. It's just pointing at a separation that's already happened inside of you. And we see it. We've seen this a lot, especially when they're saying, my divine masculine won't come and choose me. And we're like, what about the masculine in you that's wounded? How's that creating space for the divine? Because you can divinely heal that in yourself first. You don't open a door to the divine. You already have the divine in you. You just closed it on everybody else, including yourself. Open that door and heal the masculine feminine you were born with. Heal it. That has been your choice from the very beginning. You just needed a connection like this to show you how you cut off half of yourself somehow, some way. You are made up of both energies, so stop telling yourself you're not. And stop telling yourself you only got half of the divine, because you're whole. Why are you focusing on what's not whole outside of you? It's going to be because you've already placed not whole inside of you. We got to get away from telling each other we're not awake. It's just not right. There's too many wounds and too many disconnects that happen to you already to be told you're not awake. You're awake and you're hurt. You're asleep on your love. That's the issue. What would it take to wake up the love? It's profound, and I can't tell you how free it is to be with Sherry and have a love that's just one of a kind. And I was really broken. But she showed me that I was worth loving. And I was still refusing to see that until I saw myself saying it to myself, and then I finally put my arms around me. They can't put their arms around you until you do it. They can't connect to you till you connect to you. You went through everything you went through. It wasn't for all for nothing, especially letting go. Don't let go of what you haven't reached into. And you got to reach inside of what actually happened and grab you first before you let go. Let go of the experience and hold on to you. The experience is going to happen regardless. Are you connected for it? Are you connected to you? Do you know where your inner child is? Do you even listen? Why would you let somebody connect to you if you're disconnected there? I feel you. My heart just went. I felt you inside my heart. That was cool. Because I was vulnerable, you got in. That's what you did. I'm sorry.
You two are amazing. It's such a gift to witness your connection. Thank you so much for being in presence with us. For me, one of the greatest gifts that I get to experience when I am with you guys is the vibration and the frequency of union. And that is what the divine really called me to be able to share with all of you who are in the audience and watching this. And the recognition that union with self, you guys showed me that it was the union with self that really sets the pace and the course to union with anyone else, whether it's our twin or somebody else. And we can have all of this conversation, which is, wonderfully entertaining for the brain. But there is something that happens at a primordial level that allows us to channel into the frequency of union just by witnessing the two of you be with one another in such a complete and whole and unguarded and unconditional way. And so for that, for being willing to just show up today and to give that transmission, be that transmission to all of us, I thank you. It is a huge gift. I don't take it lightly. And for all of you watching, whether it's live or the replay, watch this as many times as you need to anchor that frequency in your field. And more than watching it, if you know that you've got blocks that you're carrying in the 3D, please email them. Set up some time, do the work. info@relationshipreinvented.com. Some of you have already seen here in the live chat some of their clients who have said, hey, I've worked with them. And then my twin reached out. I think Giselle said that after 8 months of work with them, that the self-work was the path.
That happens too. I don't know why that happens to us.
We get them to open their heart.
That's it. It just, sometimes it feels like a curse. It's like we get them to open up their hearts. And I haven't heard from Twin in like 9 years. And I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a little bit rough because 9 years now, we don't want you to respond right now. Yeah. There's a reason for this. So yeah, it gets
and then you trace it all the way back and find out that their father left them.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's a timeline thing. And then you go, get out of time. And the next thing you know, here comes the twin. That's how it works. Your heart won't open if you're stuck in time.
Right. Sorry, Kay.
No, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And so their work will help you do the things that you need to do to break down the block on your side that you think is manifesting a block from their side. They're just mirroring you. And their work will help you see that. Lee and Sherry, thank you. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. And it was absolutely so much fun.
Thank you so much for having us. We always enjoy your channel. It's amazing. Your people are amazing. There are people.
We found our family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's big.
Everything's aligned with the stars. Are you accepting?
Right.
That's kind of what we help put the other part of what you do, Kay. It really is a two-part thing. And yours is more universally sound. Ours is about the emotional soundness that goes with it. So
right on.
If you haven't been able to connect to that, maybe it's something that you need to align with within yourself. So that'll show you why the stars are aligning like this. Because there's two sides. It's not always bad and it's not always good. There's always both. It's just which one are you putting energy into?
Right. Yeah, we see some emails coming through. We'll respond to those first thing in the morning. You'll start getting your emails back.
Because now I need some cuddle time.
Yes, please cuddle for me.
Oh, I'm gonna do it for me first, then you.
Just so you guys know, this is a cuddle for the collective tonight. We're going to all be feeding off of this one. We're going to take this mothership right on home. Thank you.
Really
is it okay to leave them on like a 10-second instruction thing they want to do after watching this? I can do it real fast.
Lee's going to put them on a journey.
What they got to do is after they get done listening to this and they sit back and they can go sit someplace quiet, they close their eyes and listen to their heartbeat and listen to it till you start to see a visual with your eyes closed of a really bright light. And then tell yourself this connection isn't going to destroy that because it was created from connection. And then maybe they'll see some different answers when they open their eyes. If you connect to yourself, you will always find the right answer. And even if it's not right, at least it's open. Nobody can come to you if you're not.
I love it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Take great care, everyone. I'll see you on our next Twins in Union interview. And if you're watching the replay, definitely check out the Tools for Union series where you can find Twins in Union panel 1 and 2 and every intimate interview with each twin in union on both panels. I thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing. Such a pleasure and an honor to serve you in this way. Thank you so much. Bye for now.